Marciano in the white. And there's tremendous drama involved in this one. Joe Louis, one of the greatest champions. Joe Louis, one of the greatest champions the boxing game has ever known. At 30. Joe Louis, one of the greatest champions the boxing game has ever known. At 37, he faces a man 10 years younger than himself, a man who's coming up the ladder to greatness, Rocky Marciano. Marciano, undefeated in ladder to greatness, Rocky Marciano. To greatness, Rocky Marciano. Marciano undefeated in 37 consecutive professional fights. Marciano goes right to work on the brown bomber. To greatness, Rocky Marciano. Marciano undefeated in 37 consecutive professional fights. Marciano goes right to work on the brown bomber. Marciano likes to work in close, puts his head on Joe Louis's chest. Marciano much the shorter of the two. Louis is 6'2", Marciano is 5'11". Marciano working inside on Joe Louis. The referee is Ruby Goldstein, and he breaks them. First round of the scheduled 10-rounder. Louis, perhaps on his way back to regaining the crown that no heavyweight champion ever has regained. Marciano seems not at all awed by the presence of Joe Louis. Joe, the great ex-champion, admittedly past his peak, but still a tough fighter to be reckoned with. Still perhaps the best in the game. The great ex-champion, admittedly past his peak, but still a tough fighter to be reckoned with. Still perhaps the best in the game. brown bomber in the dark trunks, Marciano in the white. And there's tremendous drama involved in this one. Joe Louis, one of the greatest champions the boxing game has ever known. At 37, he faces a man 10 years younger than himself, a man who's coming up the ladder to greatness, Rocky Marciano. Marciano undefeated in 37 consecutive professional fights. And Marciano goes right to work on the brown bomber. Marciano likes to work in close, puts his head on Joe Louis's chest. Marciano much the shorter of the two. Louis is 6'2". Marciano is 5'11". Marciano working inside on Joe Louis. The referee is Ruby Goldstein, and he breaks them. First round of the scheduled 10-rounder. Louis, perhaps on his way back to regaining the crown that no heavyweight champion ever has regained. Marciano seems not at all awed by the presence of Joe Louis. Joe, the great ex-champion, admittedly past his peak, but still a tough fighter to be reckoned with. Still perhaps the best in the game. Marciano going right to work, staying in close. Louis fighting back with lefts and rights, and a good solid overhand right by Marciano slowed Louis down. That's the end of the first round. Now they come out for round 3. Joe Louis in the dark trunks, Marciano in the white. And excitement is as great as if this were actually a title fight. Joe still possesses a murderous punch, but he is showing signs of his age. The younger Marciano is at the peak of condition. Before making boxing his career, Rocky was an all-star athlete at his local Brockton High. He was a catcher on the baseball team and center on the football 11. In 1946, Rocky was given a tryout with the Chicago Cubs. However, a sore throwing arm ended his diamond career. He's got quite a record as Marciano. 37 fights, 37 victories, 32 of 37 by KOs. Of course, Joe Louis is one of the greatest of all time. He's had 70 professional fights. He won 68. 2 he lost, one to Max Schmeling, the other in the process of a comeback to Ezra Charles. Marciano staying in tight against Joe Louis, putting his head on his chest and burrowing in. Louis trying to keep him off. Left jab of Louis's, once so terribly potent, doesn't seem quite as effective against Marciano. Tremendous drama here at Madison Square Garden. Louis, and that sure sign of age, that bald spot on top of his head. Marciano made to look bad on that wild miss. Louis is still cagey. Big question about Joe Louis is whether or not his legs can stand up under the punishment. Whether he can take the grueling pace that Marciano was sure to set. Another wild overhand right just grazed the mark. Didn't quite land. Closing seconds of the third round. Round number 6. Marciano in the white trunks comes out of his corner raring to go. He's clearly in better condition than the former champion. 10 years the younger. But like the great fighter he is, Joe Louis is always a dangerous man in the ring. Either one of these two men can win it with a single punch. You know, Joe Louis, as an amateur, won the National AAU and Golden Gloves light heavyweight titles in 1934. He scored 42 knockouts and 54 bouts. And then back on July 4th of 1934, he made his entry into the pro ranks, flattening Jack Kraken in the first round at Chicago. That was the beginning of one of the great careers in the history of all boxing. Rocky Marciano looking to put an end to that great career this evening. Louis, the brown bomber, not quite as sharp, not quite as quick as he used to be, but still packing a tremendous punch. Not quick enough to follow up the advantage of those wild overhand rights by Rocky Marciano. Marciano still boring in tight, staying right up against Joe Louis. That's rough, grueling, punishing punching in close. Marciano first to the body and then to the head. Marciano always moving forward. Louis now fighting Marciano's fight. Louis can't take advantage of his longer reach and his superior height in that close infighting. Those shorts, rights and lefts, are being taken by Marciano around the head and eyes. Near the end of the round now. And that's the end of round 6. By round number 8, Joe Louis is still in there punching. Marciano in the white trunks shows on his face the effects of Joe's stinging punches. Note the puffiness around the eyes. Nevertheless, it's not the Joe Louis of old. He's taking a battering too, for Rocky has plenty of steam in his younger fists. Marciano seems more aggressive now, beginning to pile on the pressure. Beginning to quicken the tempo and the pace, making it tougher on the older Joe Louis. Marciano is now doing most of the leading. One minute gone in round number 8. Overhand right by Marciano missed. And that uppercut misses too. But he keeps throwing, and some of those punches do get home. There's a solid right to the midsection then by Marciano. Louis had to cover up. An overhand right raises Louis's jaw. Now, but apart from the daze he's in, Joe is okay. Those final punches of Marciano simply did him in. It's been a fight that ends, in a sense, with overtones of sadness, for this is the end of an era.